Black woman, you do not have to offer a disclaimer when you get ready to exercise your throat chakra. You do not have to offer a disclaimer before you say something. That consciousness, that programming is rooted in fear. We're talking about that in today's episode. Let's jump right in. Here's the deal. In church, you were blamed. Black women are blamed to this day in 2025. They're blamed for infidelity, for being too strong, for being too much in your expression. Whether you are expressing your boundaries, if you are expressing what you need, if you are expressing an opinion in conversation, that is still frowned upon. People have a problem with that, especially in religion, especially in the church. All right. Then what happens is when that programming gets into your nervous system, Black woman, you then carry that out into the world. You're programmed to believe that out in the world, you have to hide yourself from people, to be careful not to offend anyone or to take up too much space when really your original identity is to take up as much space as you possibly can. Okay. You've been programmed to believe to stay out of the limelight when the limelight is where you need to be, where you were designed to be because of your lineage, because of your natural energy, because you were programmed to believe to stay out of the limelight, because you don't want to cause any problems or rock the boat. That programming, that consciousness, it depends on, it feeds off of, it lives off of fear. That's it. Fear. So let's deal with this. This programming shows up in your actions even after you have left religion. If you have not detangled yourself from that, that programming shows up in your actions. It's going to show up in what you say because it has become a part of your identity, albeit a false one, because that is not the original you. This programming causes you to minimize your own words by making you believe that you have to lighten what you say. Now, I'm going to help myself in giving you your original nature, okay? Your original identity as a Black woman. I'm going to read from, which I've done before, from Mami Wata, Volume 2, okay? This is Africa's Ancient Goddesses and Gods, written by Vivian Hunter, who has since ascended since writing this book. And this book, if you haven't gotten any of her books, okay, I would suggest if you get her book, start with the Sybil Prophetesses. All right, start with that one. It's a very thin book, and the color of it, I believe, it's kind of like a maroon ish book, but start with that book. But anyway, I'm reading from Volume 2 in this episode. All right. And I'm going to read from page 717, bottom paragraph. All right. So this says, let me read you the headline first. Thousands flocked to Africa's shores, seeking the counsel of their powerful diviners, priestesses, and priests. And by the way, these priests were of the lineage of the African ancient goddesses, of the ancient Black mothers, and they still understood her cosmic order. All right. So this is during ancient times, thousands flocked to Africa's shores and Mediterranean colonies, seeking the counsel and assistance of their powerful diviners, priestesses, presiding over by an equally impressive pantheon of goddesses and gods. Many foreigners ambitiously and competitively sought entrance into their famed schools of philosophy, religion, medicine, science, music, literature, and law. Does that sound like you come from a lineage where you have to lighten what you say, where your words don't matter? I think not. So I wanted to read that to you. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up right now is because I have seen, in light of so many things that have happened just within the past 3 weeks, just within the past month, before we hit the month of October, right? This is October 4th that I'm recording this video. So much has happened since then. And what I have seen is Black women, before addressing injustice, before addressing inhumane speech, inhumane behavior, I've seen so many Black women say things like, you know, I really do love people, but I have to say this. Or, I believe in equality for all, but this is some bullshit that I'm noticing. I'm not racist, but this is the injustice that I see. I'll also see Black women say things like, you know, I don't celebrate anyone's murder or killing, but we have to look at blah, blah, you know, this, and this. They fill in the blank. I've also seen Black women say, you know, people have a right to free speech, but you do not have to reduce what you say with those disclaimers. Do you get the examples that I've used? Another thing that I want to address here. Religion has not reduced its efforts to demonize your inherent spiritual practices, Black woman. Hear me out here. And since society is heavily influenced by religion, society hasn't reduced its efforts in all of its systems by sending you the message that you don't belong, even though the whole world belongs to you and you belong everywhere. So you don't have to reduce what you say with a disclaimer because of fear of how you will be perceived or viewed. Religion and society didn't reduce their efforts to not include you, but at the same time attempted to siphon your energy. They wanted your energy, but they didn't want you. Society has not reduced its efforts. So you don't need to reduce what you say. You don't need to reduce your expression. If anything, you become more expressed, more empowered, more emboldened in who you are as the original woman. Do I need to read that paragraph again? Do I need to read it again? I think I'm going to. Because what I read, does that sound like a lineage of women who reduced what they said if they were sought after by other people of other nations? When their schools, when their societies and civilizations and what they built was sought after, when their wisdom was sought after by other people, does that sound like you come from a lineage where you have to reduce what you say? You have to be fully expressed in the power of your words to understand that you have the ability to create schools of philosophy, religion, medicine, science, music, literature, and law. You have to be fully in that expression. You have to be fully in that authority, in that authoritative expression. And this authority wasn't to have power over people. It was order. It was cosmic order. It was cosmic balance. It was cosmic harmony. To recognize the power of the ancient Black mothers and their authority and direct connection with source, with the universe, with nature, with the galaxies, with the cosmos. So, what can you do to detangle from that consciousness where you feel like you have to give a disclaimer before you say something, where you have to hide who you are? What can you do to detangle from that so that who you are, being in your fullest expression, becomes the norm in your nervous system? How do you make being of authority and power, how do you make that the norm in your nervous system? I'm going to give you some questions to ask yourself, okay? These are questions that I've had to ask myself to detangle from that programming to make me think that I have to hide myself. First question: how can I show up in the highest expression of who I am as the original woman? How can I show up in the highest expression of who I am as the original woman? Second question: when was the last time that you spoke freely with full confidence about what you desired, about an injustice that you were either on the other side of or you actually observed that needed to be rectified? When was the last time you spoke up freely and with confidence for your own boundaries? I want you to think about those times, those moments. And then I want you to examine, how did you feel? Did you feel empowered? Did you feel more confident? Did you feel at peace? Did you feel liberated? And how can you experience more of that? Next question is this: when was the last time you minimized what you were saying? Get that moment and then ask yourself why. Why did I minimize what I wanted to say? Why? What were the feelings associated with it? So get that moment, get the feelings associated with it. Then ask yourself, how do I transmute that raw energy of how I was feeling when the last time I minimized what I said? How do I transmute that raw energy to give more meaning to what I really want to express? And then the last question that you can ask yourself, and I'm saying last question, this is not necessarily the last question, because what you're going to see happen is that when you go through this exercise, more things are going to just come into your consciousness. You're going to start remembering more, and you'll have other questions to ask yourself. Okay. I'm just giving you this as a starting point. Okay. Do you still find yourself minimizing what you say and how you express yourself? Do you still minimize what you say? And are you still minimizing your own expression? These questions are not about self-judgment. This is about exploration and stepping into the unknown, and now detangling from that religious programming, detangling from the fear, detangling from the fear of you not fully expressing yourself and feeding that fear over and over again. You're detangling from that. That is essential to you stepping in to your sovereign identity as the original woman. So I want you to go through this exercise. Give yourself the time to go through these questions. All right. And I want you to let me know what your takeaways are. If you haven't already, go and download the complimentary 5-part mini series that I did called Religion to Alchemy. Go to unleashedalchemy.com. You can get access to it immediately to your email. All right. And also, too, I want to pose this question. I'm thinking of starting a community, okay, where we're going to have regular live sessions, regular live workshops, regular live Q&As. It will be private, off of social media, out of the public eye, okay, not even on YouTube. There's a reason why I do not go live on YouTube, okay? So, but in this community, I will be going live, all right? We will be sharing experiences. Perhaps if you like to share your own religious experience and the biggest challenges that you've had navigating your life after religion and stepping into your own spiritual practice. We'll be having rituals in that community. We will be studying on how to connect with nature again, to connect with the energy of a cosmos again. I will also be going into more depth in these books, Mami Wata, the African Goddesses and Gods Unveiled, and I was about to say Unleashed, but going off of the title that Mama Zogbe called it, it's Mami Wata, Africans Ancient Goddesses and Gods Unveiled. We'll be going into more depth about her books because that is part of the work I came here to do, is to liberate Black women to embrace our true identity as the original woman. We belong everywhere because we carry the original economic, political, ecclesiastic power and authority all over the world. All right. And there are some things that I know I'm going to have to say that I will need to say offline, okay, in a private space. So anyway, I'm thinking of doing that. So let me know if that would be something that you'll be interested in. All right. It will be starting off virtual and then eventually face-to-face. So yeah, let me know in the comments. You can also send me an email, unleashedalchemy@gmail.com. And yeah, we're just going to keep going and growing and elevating and being more liberated and more and more and more liberated in our power, liberated in our spiritual practice. I am excited about this. Okay. I'm passionate about this. So much to talk about. Okay. So until next time, Be sovereign.